Welcome to Inside City Hall. I'm your host, Mayor Darrell Seymore, and today we have Jacob Wilcock, Building Inspector for the City of Shiloh, and Rick Austin from the Public Works. Welcome, Jacob.
Thank you.
Rick.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us today. We want to talk a little bit about what we have coming up here. It's always that time of year where we've accumulated a few things over the season, and now it's time to decide what we want and what we don't want and get rid of some of those bulky items that are around. And then, because if we want to really keep those bulky items and we need a place to store them, we're going to talk about sheds and the code and things there. So if they want to put a shed on their property, what they need to follow. Okay?
Okay.
So Rick, share with us just a little bit about what we have coming up, how you clean your yard, some of the things that the city provides to help people.
All right. We got the green waste dumping coming up in May 15th through the 20th and May 22nd through the 27th. From 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's where you can take all of your green waste. They're taking lumber, old furniture, bed springs, all that kind of stuff out there at Dirty Deeds off of the highway. I can't remember the address, sorry, but they're located up behind Perkins Cinders up there off Highway 60. And then coming around in June the 5th through the 8th, the city will come around on your trash day and pick up all of your bulky items and haul them off for you if they're out at the curb.
Okay, so taking the things down to Dirty Deeds, the green waste, that's something that I have to do to get it down to that site. But when I get there, there's not going to be a cost associated with me leaving it there.
No, actually the city covers the cost out at Dirty Deeds and as well as dumping out at the waste management.
Okay. You know, and if you're not familiar how to get to Dirty Deeds, just head like you're going to St. John's. You'll go out past the place where we have the pellet place.
Yeah,
we'll go
Thunder
past
Raceway,
the Thunder Raceway, and then right there's a road that turns to the right up towards a big cinder pit. Go up there a little ways, the roads are going to fork, hang a right, keep going down there a little longer, and then you're going to run into Dirty Deeds. So it's a great place to take things and to be able to get rid of that. So what needs to be on the curbside? What are some of the items that they will allow? Let's say I have an old car in my yard. Can I just put it on the curbside?
Actually, you need to call, if you have an old car, call S&D and they'll come and pick it up for you.
Okay.
Just tell them that you're under the city program and give them your address, and they'll be more than happy to come out and pick up the vehicle for you. As far as the stuff that you can put out on the curb, we picked up everything from pallets to refrigerators. All your appliances can go, your electronics can go out there. One thing, a couple things that we will not take is hazardous waste like paint and paint thinners and oil, used motor oil, stuff like that. We will not take.
So tires, we won't take tires.
Tires we do take.
We do take tires.
Yeah,
okay.
Actually the county, we've got a program with the county that we drop them off there.
Okay.
So they help us with that.
Now we want to have that a little bit organized on the curb. So tell us what you kind of ask for or would like to see.
Just stack it neatly out on the curb. Construction waste is something that we'd rather not take. Last year we come across a lot of construction waste. Please limit yourself on that. We'd rather not pick it up, but if it's out there, we usually try to keep it as clean as possible.
Okay, that's great. Let's repeat those dates one more time here.
We have 2 weeks in May 15th through the 20th and May 22nd through the 27th. You can go to Dirty Deeds with your brush, lumber. He's even taking couches and stuff like that out there, furniture. Take all that out to Dirty Deeds, and then let's see, where was I at? June 5th through the 8th, we'll be picking up on your scheduled trash day.
Okay.
So the city will.
So I mean, it's one of those things that you can save hundreds of dollars, because by the time you go with a truckload or a little trailer load and you go out there yourself, you're going to pay a small little fortune to get rid of some of those things. So it's a great time to have that stuff out on the curb and make sure you do that.
It's an excellent thing that the city does for its citizens. Yeah. I mean, it's a big extra.
And the way that it works is when we do our contract with Waste Management every year, that's when we negotiate this into that contract. So it's one of those added measures that we're able to offer to the people. So it's great. Share with us a little bit here, Jacob. One of the things that we have is before we get into sheds, let's say that my neighbor, I think he's out of compliance. He's got some brush and he has some debris, or maybe he's got 14 cats and 17 dogs, and maybe he just has some things that I don't think really fit into the city code, and I'm tired of it. So how do I still be a good neighbor and remain friends with him, but get you to come out and take care of my problem?
Well, there's a couple options there. One, you can get on the city's website, and we have an option there where you can send in a complaint, which comes in, it's an email that we'll get, and you can send that anonymously. You don't have to say who you are, what your name is, what your telephone number is, your address, or what your email is. It can be anonymous, and we just need the address of where the issue is and what the issue is, so we can go out and know what to look for. Or you can call us. You can call our office and speak with me, and I'll note it down what the issue is, and we'll go take a look at it.
Okay.
So,
And when a person's in non-compliance, you have you give them an opportunity to fix it on their own. And then if they don't do that within a certain amount of time, what's the next step that you do to help enforce the code?
yeah, so typically I try to get in contact with them and verbally give them a warning. This needs to be cleaned up. If they don't clean up in the amount of time that we discuss that they think they need, we'll send them an informal notice in the mail, which gives them another little bit of time to take care of it. If it's not taken care of in that time frame, then we send a formal notice in the mail. That's usually a certified mail, so we know that they received it, and then that gives them 30 days to clean up. And if they haven't cleaned up at that time, then the violation goes to court, and then they got to deal with the judge to get it cleaned up. So.
Okay. So there are some measures, but both sides that they do have to respond to keep things within the proper code. So now we're talking about some of these sheds and some of the different things that are being built on people's property that are fine to build, but there are some restrictions that once you get a certain size, then there are permitting things that need to happen. So let's walk through that. When do I need a permit? Do I have to have a permit if I'm just putting a small little building up? And at what point do I have to meet code, and what does the code require me to do?
Okay. It's 144 square feet. If you're over 144 square feet, which is a 12 by 12 shed, if you're over that, you need to get a permit.
Okay.
You need to get a building permit. It needs to be built to building code, and so therefore you need to come into City Hall, apply for the permit, submit plans, how it's going to be built. Needs to have a permanent foundation, so it's not really a temporary shed at that point. A lot of people come and say, oh, it's only a temporary shed, it's a pre-built temporary shed, but code says over 144 square feet it needs permanent foundation. And then if you're under that, if you're under 144 square feet, you don't need a building permit, but you still need to meet setbacks for the zoning requirements. So you still can come in and get a complimentary shed permit. It just is over the counter, it's free, but it basically lets us know that where you're placing the shed on your property, it meets the zoning code.
So in all measures, I need to be able to meet my setbacks that were within code whenever I put any type of a shed or something on. Okay.
Yep, the building permits are required. The complimentary aren't necessarily required, but they're highly recommended. In case you put that shed right on your property line, your neighbor says, hey, complains, hey, I can't, he's blocking my view, he's right on his property line. Now we come out and that person's in violation of our zoning code, and they need to move the shed.
So what are the setbacks if we're talking front, side, and rear setbacks that I can place a shed?
Typical setbacks for a shed that's under 15 feet in height and under the height of the main structure is typically you need to be 20 feet off any property line that's adjacent to a street, 5 feet from your side or rear property lines, and 5 feet from any other building on the property.
Okay. So we just have a 5-foot setback. So it's different than what a house would be.
Right.
It's just, on that. And then the easements that we have going forward there. So what is your biggest challenge that you have? And it's a lot easier to get a foundation put in place before the shed's there.
Correct.
And so a lot of times people have the building already there, and then they find out they have to go get a permit, and now where are they going to put the building while they do? It can just become a problem. Is that common?
It is common. One of the more common things we see is these pre-built sheds. and people putting them on the property that are over 144 square feet. And they think, well, it's just a temporary thing. I'm just going to use it temporarily. Well, building code, it needs to have a permanent foundation, and that's where it gets difficult, is getting a permanent foundation for them bigger pre-built sheds. Seems more often than not when we contact them and they realize what they need to do, they downsize. They take the bigger one back and get a smaller one.
Right.
So that's what happens more often than not, it seems.
Now, what happens if how many can he have? Say he decides that he wanted to build a 20 by 20, and now all of a sudden a 12 by 12 is too big. So does he go and buy two 12 by 12s? And is that okay?
I mean, he has to meet all the zoning requirements. In the zoning that he is, you're only allowed a certain lot coverage for buildings,
Okay.
for homes, and so you can't be over that, and you've got to be 5 feet from the other structures, and so I mean, he's got to meet the zoning requirements. So, but
Okay. As long as he does that, then
Yep.
he can solve his own problem
Yep.
as best that he can.
Yep.
We're not here to be a hard case, but we're here to protect the other property owners around. And also, we just had later in our segment, we're going to have people about our fire, and so there are safety measures that go into place too.
Yep.
I don't think you require anybody to have plumbing or anybody to have electrical in these type of buildings.
not required.
So that's their option. So we're not asking them to do anything more than just put it on some type of a permanent foundation.
Correct. And if it is smaller than 144 square feet and you are adding electrical or plumbing, then you need to get a permit for that.
Right.
That's stuff that requires a
Just think
permit.
that
So.
way. Okay. Anything else you guys want to share or cover?
No, I think we got her.
Real briefly here, the other thing is part of getting rid of things around your home comes up with yard sales. And periodically, it's a beautiful day out on Friday, Saturday, and all of a sudden signs start popping up. Share with us a little bit about what they need to do to be a good citizen if they're going to have a yard sale.
Well, the code allows you to have up to 3 yard sales a year. So you can't have a continuous yard sale all summer long. Basically operating a little business out of your home. You can't do that.
I can't be an eBay account and always selling out of my garage, okay?
It's 3 yard sales a year, and they can only last up to 3 days at a time. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday type sale, that's okay, up to 3 times annually. That way you're not being a hindrance to your neighbors, where you constantly have traffic coming in the neighborhood and cars lining up along the street. I get complaints every year about yard sales that are going on weekly, almost monthly, and so I got to go tell them they can't do that. Also, problem is the signage. We understand you want to get people to your house to know where the yard sale is. We just ask that you pick those signs up at the end of the day.
Right.
Don't leave them out after you're done, because then the wind blows them away. If it rains, and it just makes our city look worse.
Be respectful of the property where you're placing it, as well as cleaning up after yourself when you're done.
Right.
We also have a community yard sale that'll be going on here the next couple of weeks down at Frontier Field, where people can actually buy a booth for like $10 a section, bring their things down there, and that will be a real big community yard sale that's happening as well. So these are some great things that we have going on in our community. The clean sweep. Just know that if you're going to put a shed, make sure you do it right. But those are the great things that it's always good to ask, because you don't have to have any type of permit to do a yard sale though, right?
No.
Okay, so that's great. Well, thanks for being with us today, Jacob.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Rick, thank you. Stay tuned for the next segment of Inside City Hall, where we will be talking about the upcoming fire seasons for the White Mountains. Thank you. Welcome back to Inside City Hall. We now have Kirk, Webb, and Brian Russell from the Timber Mesa Fire Department. Welcome, guys.
Good
Tim,
morning. How are you?
Brian,
Good morning.
glad to have you with us today. So it's getting that time of year where we've had a great spring, a little bit of wind, but we've already had one little fire in our community.
Yeah.
And we just hope that's the last one that we're going to have for the year. But we just want to talk about what are some changes maybe on being a little more fire-wise and safety in your home, around your home, and some features that we have coming forward.
Some basic things that people need to look at is if you live within the forested area, You know, one of the basic things, get the pine needles and leaves and debris off your roof and out of your rain gutters and things like that. If you got an open deck, porch area or something like that, and it's got space underneath where debris can collect underneath there. When we get those forest fires, like we had the cedar fire last year, you get embers that travel long distances. And where are they going to go? They're going to go right up underneath where that porch, where that debris is. And so now you got some nice kindling. So we recommend to make sure to keep that clean or seal it off so no debris or embers can ever get into that area. A lot of homes, when, you know, several fires throughout our area, Rodeo Chetasky fire, Wallow fire, a lot of homes were lost simply because of that simple thing.
Right.
So just some basic things. Clean, you know, a lot of people think, well, I got to clean my entire, if they got a large lot and clean the entire lot of the pine needles and stuff. That's not really the case, you know. We'll come out and help do some assessments with people. Be happy.
You won't help rake?
You know, I've actually had a few of the school classes. We're kind of talking about introducing a class with some of the schools and teach them Firewise principles, and then get those kids to go out and do some work. So I'm kind of working on that program right now, and I think that would be very, you know, one for the kids to, as they're growing up, and then they have an idea of, hey, when they go to build a house or buy a house, you know, they got a better understanding of how to safely live in the forest.
Didn't mean to cut you off there, but so
No.
you'll go out and assess some of the situations that they have.
Yeah, if they want some help, either one of us, or we can get the crews to come over and walk their property with them and give them suggestions and ideas of how to, you know, what they need to do to, you know, which areas to thin out, things like that.
Right. You know, because a lot of times we have different slope properties, so they need to know where their most area of defense they need to, you know, focus on and things that way. Because I recall some of the things in the Rodeo Chetasky fire, there were just cases where a long covert was there, and it's acted as a funnel and brought, you know, fire right up at, you know, the guy's thinking, well, how did it cross the road? It didn't. It just came through the culvert and right into his yard, and things that he wouldn't think that would happen there.
Right.
Too.
You know, like some other things too is, you know, when you're dealing with those slopes that you talked about, if you rake all of that completely out, you know, if that slope is far enough away from the home, you kind of might want to leave that, you know, that leaf debris there, because that helps keep from erosion.
Right.
You know, and losing your property and sending that down to the neighbor's yard.
Right, for
you
sure.
know, so you don't always need to rake everything up, and that's where we can look at, you know, how can we best help the homeowners understand what to do.
Okay, that's fantastic. So we have also our red and green stickers that we have are going out. Well, let's cover that a little bit here.
Yeah, our red tag, green tag program, where we send the crews out, and this year we're looking at just kind of some isolated areas, not the entire district, and so we're not overwhelming the crews. But then so we'll switch those areas up from year to year, and so they'll go out there and they'll do a very quick evaluation of the people's property. And if it's kind of more on the side that's less defensible, they might get a red tag. It's not saying that we're not going to come and protect their property. It's just, hey, there's some things you really need to take care of. It's your responsibility as a property owner to take care of that. The items on both the red and green are actually identical.
Okay.
So if you get a green tag, hey, you're doing a good job, but here's some things that maybe you might want to consider looking at.
Okay. Brian normally gives out the green tags, right? All right. He's our green guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, it's the other way around. I'm usually a little more strict. But no, that was one of the things that we've had is a big problem is folks get the red tag and we get the phone calls and they think, well, fire comes, you're not going to save my house. It's more just a warning to say,
These are things.
these are just some things we noticed that can help us better prepare your house in the event that we do get a wildfire coming. And just a little bit of education seems to go a long way in helping those folks. And then come back, they get a reevaluation, they get a green tag after it's done. And
Right. Well, you know, having the great moisture that we had this year has helped a lot in the forest, but we're not out of the woods by any means. And at the same time, you know, it's also will cause some vegetation to grow and things this spring. We've got a little bit of rain so far and some in the forecast. So that's always a good measure to just be prepared and aware of what's happening around your home.
Absolutely, it's our responsibility to take care of our own, the things that we own and where we live. And since we do live in the forest, if we don't manage it and take care of it, Mother Nature, Father Nature, whoever, they're going to take care of it. And and unfortunately, fire is one the way that lightning strikes and things like that can cause a lot of damage.
Okay. Let's move inside the home here. You have a new safety checklist pamphlet here that's out. Let's talk a little bit about what we can do, not so much about forest fire, but what are just fire prevention around your home on a day-to-day basis that we can do.
Right, and this is something that Chief Savage wanted us to kind of start pushing, and so just kind of furthering our customer service and whatnot. So we come across and we collected a lot of different information, and we came up with a checklist, a little brochure that as the crews are out running calls, or if somebody wants to even request a home safety check, we can come into the home. We can walk through if they want to, or we can just leave them the brochure. The brochure has a checkoff list that they can go through and things that may or may not think about. Like, for example, we asked them, have you thought about when's the last time you cleaned the lint out of the dryer vent? Mm-hmm. A lot of home fires start from that. The lint never gets cleaned out. And that stuff burns really nice.
Oh, it is.
and it makes for, and if you leave the dryer on, you go to work or whatever, and we've actually had that happen where come back and the homeowner, their house is gone, and that was the cause of the fire, over too much lint in the dryer.
Right, and it's even, a lot of women will take that lint out every time they're doing the load, but they never take the time to go and wash that thing completely there, because after a while, that should happen about every 3 months. They should be cleaning that thing completely.
Right. So just a bunch of little safety tips in there to look at, and making sure that, a lot of people don't know that smoke alarms only are good for 10 years, and you need to replace them. And as you're, and if they're getting dusty and dirty, that can actually clog them up where they may not work properly. Right. So just basic ideas, and just to go through and help people understand, simple things they can do to protect them when they're inside the home too.
Right. Sometimes you go in and you see that there's 14 plugs into one socket in the bathroom. The blow dryer, everything's happening, and it becomes an overload. And those are some features that we have. I noticed also in here that you kind of talk a little bit about where's your fire extinguisher. Right. Do all of the children, the parents, everybody know exactly where that fire extinguisher is?
And do they know how to use it?
Right.
We actually can do some fire extinguisher training. We've done that with a lot of businesses, people. We'll set it up at different events from time to time. Because we find that people see the extinguisher, oh yeah, I know how to do that, but they've really never tried it. We got a pretty cool little prop that actually has some real flames, and you use an extinguisher, and so we kind of teach people, give them an idea of what it's like using that, and then how to do it safely, because if the fire's getting too big, that little extinguisher is not going to fight a big fire. So just get out.
Right.
Let the fire guys come in and take care of it at that point.
I think that's your other point you have, is getting out of the home safe, and what do you need to assess? Brian, what's some of the things you need to assess if you did have a fire? What are some of the things that you'd recommend that parents do, children do, first assessment on getting out of the home safely?
Well, the things that we look at, we always look at windows and doors. We look at, do the children have the ability to actually get out of a room? Can they do it physically, as well as are they mentally able to understand what they're supposed to do? We look at it, and we teach the Edith program, the exit drills in the home, where we actually simulate a fire drill, if you will, in the home. Kids get this at practice every day or once a month at school, but then we forget to take it at home. And that's one of the big things that we run into is we arrive first on scene. Well, our first priority is to make sure everyone's safe. When the family's out, they're at their rally point, and they can tell us, we're all here. Now we can transition, and we can start doing our second focus, which is to try and save your property at that point. It's just one of those things that we all know we should do it. We just don't have the time. We forget about it. And little programs like this just kind of help refresh our memory on stuff like that.
Right. I remember one time had a bedroom for my daughter. It was great. It was the end of the hall, and it was fine, but the balcony, the deck didn't go underneath her window, so if that door is blocked off, how does she get out safely? So we had a big rope and ladder made, so she could at least throw it out, and at least have something rather than just jumping out the window, the alternative here.
I mean, she doesn't fly like
She doesn't fly like Superman yet, almost, but not quite. Some of those things. So all of those things are part of it. And you mentioned having the safety zone, or the point where the families can meet and say that we're all accounted for. I think that's really important, that families know where they're going to meet after, if they do have an incident, where they get to.
Right.
And things. So anything else you want to cover on this checklist or items that you have there going on?
Just one of the things, we do have educational programs out there, whether it's CPR, first aid, our Ready, Set, Go program, where we talk about, how we live in the forest, what things that they can do, and then if we do have to get the evacuation order, be prepared ahead of time, have all your important documents ready to go, and then what to do if we do get evacuated, and the process that takes, and things like that. So if people want any of that kind of education, give us a call. We'd be happy to come out and work with individuals, groups, organizations, businesses. It doesn't matter. That's what my job is, to be out in the community and see what the risks are and try to mitigate those risks.
Right. We get better and better at this because of the practice that we have had and the real life actually doing, but we don't want to become complacent. And I just appreciate our public on how they've responded and how they've been ready, and I appreciate what you guys have done to make sure that the word is out, you're helping people, and you're there. And I think that's one of the great things that we have going in our community, is our fire and safety that we have going here.
Yeah, we got a lot of great support from the community, and it's a lot of fun. So,
well, we won't call a forest fire fun today, but
no, but fun being able to work with the community, and absolutely.
Real quick here, the ratings, how fire companies are rated for, whether it be for insurance purposes or just how we are doing. Has that changed since the merger or anything like that? Have you seen any changes along that line?
We're actually in the process of everything that we're revamping. We're about ready for a regrade, and I recall we were just a few points shy of
a 3.
Of a 3. So currently we're at a 4, and that's for the district overall.
That's awesome.
Which actually in the Lakeside area we were a 5, so that the merge actually brought us down to a 4. And then, like I said, we're looking at even improving it from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for being with us here today, and appreciate what you do in our community. Ryan, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching us and being with us here at Inside City Hall. I hope that you have a great day. Thank you.